Kathleen had been walking in the park with her children for the third hour. The weather was warm and sunny. The children were having fun, throwing colorful leaves into the air, which fell nicely and rustled under their feet. It was time to go home for dinner. Besides, the woman was very tired after work, but the kids were begging her, "Mommy, let's walk a little more. Can we quickly go and feed the ducks in the pond? And then we'll go home, okay?" they said. Kathleen smiled. "Okay, you can go, but not for too long. Brian, keep an eye on them and take Michelle by the hand, she's the youngest. And don't get too close to the water." Brian, Sam, Rick, Mia, and Michelle rushed off to the ducks, and Kathleen waited on a bench nearby. She turned her face to the sun and stretched out her swollen and tired legs. It's a blessing to have children. Even though it's a lot of worries, I get so much love from those little hands that hug me 100 times a day. Kathleen saw her eldest son Brian running back to her and became worried. "Dear, where is everyone? Did something happen? I told you not to leave Michelle." The boy began to excuse himself quickly. "Mom, don't scold me please. Everything's fine, come with me." There, near the pond, some old lady is crying on a bench. I felt so sorry for her. Maybe she needs help. And he dragged his mother by the hand. Indeed, there was a skinny, hunched old lady sitting on a bench right by the water, with a small duffel bag next to her. She was holding a handkerchief soaked with tears and crying quietly. The children surrounded her and tried to comfort her in their own childish way, offering her a toy or a lollipop from their pockets. Kathleen realized that she should find out what was wrong and called the kids over to her. "Okay, I'm going to talk to the old lady. You can feed the ducks in the meantime. But don't interfere, okay? We'll go home soon." The woman took a seat next to the old lady and began the conversation timidly. "Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but I can't just walk past someone who's in trouble. Is something wrong? Is there anything I can do to help you? By the way, my name is Kathleen." The old lady sighed sadly. "Nice to meet you, my name is Daisy. I don't think anyone can help me. In my old age, I was left without a roof over my head. Nobody needs me. I don't know what to do, where to go. I even wanted to kill myself out of desperation. But I wasn't brave enough." Kathleen was shocked. "How did it happen? What about your children or grandchildren, or a husband? Or you don't have any relatives at all? What a disaster." Daisy continued. "Well, I have 2 children, a son and a daughter. But they have their own families, their own children. But I turned out to be a burden to them. They don't need me. They've decided to put me in a municipal nursing home. I'm ashamed and scared at the same time. So I just quietly packed up this morning and left. I was just walking aimlessly and ended up here." Kathleen was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. "That's awful. How can they put their mother in a nursing home? Why, I can't believe it. Tell me more about it. We have enough time. My kids will only be happy to walk some more." Daisy, wiping away the tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks, plunged into her memories. She had nowhere to hurry, but she wanted to talk to someone. It was heavy on her soul and it was hard to speak through her tears. "I haven't always lived like this. All my life I worked in a senior position. I was a mall director. Everyone in the city knew and respected me, and my husband also held an important position, working at the local factory. We built a beautiful 2-story house with a balcony and a swimming pool, bought spacious apartments for our son and daughter, and paid for their education in the best universities. But my husband died 8 years ago. He had been ill for a long time, suffering terribly. I had to sell 2 cars to pay for his treatment. But all in vain, he passed away. Mary and Nick are twins. We raised them with so much love, spoiled them, didn't deny them anything, and bought them anything they wanted. As soon as they finished school, they left our house. They both graduated from good universities, got married, had children. They rarely visited my husband and me. But he missed them so much, especially when he was sick. Sometimes he would call our daughter, 'Sweetheart, how are you doing? Is everything okay? When are you coming to visit us? But the answer was always the same. Oh, Daddy, I don't know. I don't have time at all. I'm so busy. I have a lot of problems. I'll call you later. Bye. Our son sometimes didn't even pick up the phone, and then excused himself saying that he didn't hear the call, that he was busy. And it happened all the time. When we buried my husband, they left in the evening, leaving me alone with my grief. Since then, I've been living alone. There's no one to talk to. Sometimes I want to cry out of sadness and loneliness. I have already forgotten what my son and daughter look like, let alone my grandchildren. My neighbors' children bring their grandchildren to them every summer. It's so nice noise, children's laughter. But my children have never come and never brought my grandchildren. They're always at resorts on vacation. I don't know why. It's like I'm a stranger to them. And then suddenly, 6 months ago, my daughter came to visit unexpectedly. I was so happy. I baked a cherry pie and set the table. I couldn't believe she finally thought about me and decided to take care of me. But the reason for the visit was different. Murray started the conversation directly. Mom, Nick and I have decided you don't need such a huge house. You're old now, and you live in this house alone. Let's sell it, and you can move in with me. You'll spend your time raising your grandchildren. We really need the money, you know. I was very upset, because we had built this house ourselves, and we had lived here all our lives. I was afraid to sell the house. If something goes wrong when I move in with my daughter and I can't live there, what will I do then? But on the other hand, I'm really old. I didn't even have the strength for household chores. In addition, I have heart problems. My blood pressure is unstable. It's hard for me to go up to the second floor, and if I get sick, I don't even have anyone to call an ambulance. My daughter promised me to buy a small apartment nearby, so I immediately agreed. So, the house was sold. I gave the money to my children and moved in with Marie, and my troubles began. My son-in-law hated me, got nervous when I sat down to eat with them in the kitchen and asked me to shut up if I wanted to say something. All I heard was, "Don't bother us with your opinions, and mind your business." My grandchildren were not happy either. They were already teenagers, and they were indignant that their mother sheltered an old woman. I tried not to leave my room, but still, my son-in-law demonstrated that I was a burden to them. It came to the point that they allocated me a separate shelf in the refrigerator and didn't allow me to take their food. My daughter was also often angry. "Mom, don't go anywhere, and don't touch anything." I was so nervous. I cried secretly and regretted that I agreed to live with my daughter. I kept asking when she was going to buy me the apartment she promised. "Please, don't start. My husband has invested all the money in a profitable business. Once he gets the profit, then we'll buy an apartment." "But actually, why do you need a separate apartment at your age? I don't understand. Does it matter where you live out your last days?" Her words hurt me so much. It turns out that old people are a burden to everyone. No one respects them, and no one needs them. Old age, it's scary. I was so upset and moved to Nick's place. I thought maybe it would be better with my son. But no. He told me directly, "Mom, this is not what we talked about. Marie has to feed you. She took more money when we sold your house. Why did you come to my place? I hope it won't be for long. You know my Jessica, she's very sensitive and fragile, and she has a very important job. She gets annoyed when there are strangers in our apartment. Moreover, someone very old. It's inconvenient." Just like that, he turned me around and kicked me out. I had to go back to my daughter. I was so offended. I raised 2 children, sold the house, and gave them all the money. And now I don't even have a place to live. This morning, I was quietly going to the bathroom and accidentally overheard a conversation in the kitchen. My son-in-law said, "Marie, I'm sick of it. Thanks for the money, but I don't want to tolerate the old woman here all my life. She walks around like a ghost, sticking her nose everywhere. Our apartment is not a homeless shelter. Let's put her in a nursing home." I think it's a reasonable solution. My daughter was really indignant at first. Are you out of your mind? I promised her I'd buy her an apartment. I've already lied. And now what? That's not right. But my son-in-law insisted. What's the big deal? They feed the old people there and take care of them. It will be even better for her there. And anyway, choose either her or me. I thought my daughter would scold him or chase him away for saying that. But she suddenly replied, well, maybe you're right. I'll think about it. You know how much I love you, honey. To be honest, I'm sick of my mother too. She's like a stone around my neck. After these words, I was not going to stay in my daughter's apartment for a minute. I waited for them to leave, packed my bag, and left. The grandchildren were at home. They saw me leaving, but they didn't even ask me anything. Nobody cares about me. That's how I ended up homeless in my old age. Kathleen was shocked by what she heard. She grew up in an orphanage and always dreamed of having at least one relative on this planet. Daisy had so many relatives, but she was thrown out on the street like old, unwanted garbage. Kathleen just couldn't believe it. Her heart ached, and she felt so sorry for her. Where would she go? What will happen to her? She couldn't live on the street. She is not homeless. She called her children over and said, "This is Daisy, and she is going to live with us from now on. Do you mind?" The children shouted like a flock of little geese. "Yay! Is she going to tell us bedtime stories? We have Rayol grandmother now. That's so cool." Kathleen took the old lady's bag and offered her hand. "Daisy, come with us. Please don't refuse. We need you. You have no idea how much we need you. I just need a nanny for my kids. I work as a cleaner in the office, and I have to ask a friend or a neighbor to babysit my kids all the time. Don't worry, they're nice, well-mannered. They won't cause any trouble. Our apartment is small but comfortable, and we always have a lot of fun. Do you agree?" Daisy started crying. "Thank you, Kathleen. I would gladly agree. I'm so tired of being lonely, and I'd love to babysit your kids. I'll be happy to do whatever you say." When the old woman came to her new home, she was greatly surprised at the care and attention she felt. The room was clean and cozy, with bunk beds near each wall. There were pull-out tables that didn't take up much space. A fold-out chair bed has been allocated for Daisy. Kathleen took out clean linens, and the children gave her warm socks, saying, "Daisy, put it on our floors or cold. You might catch a cold." Then they all shared a huge pan of fried potatoes, had tea and cookies, and chatted cheerfully. Daisy felt surprisingly cozy and comfortable in this small apartment. She felt like she was at home, because they listened to her, they talked to her, and they welcomed her warmly. She hadn't felt anything like that in a long time. When the restless children finally fell asleep after an interesting bedtime story, the women decided to have a heart-to-heart talk. Daisy dared to ask, "Kathleen, how did it happen that you were left alone with 5 children? You're so young. How did you have time to give birth to 5 children?" The woman sighed sadly. "Oh, my fate is no better than yours. I grew up in an orphanage. I was lucky to have good caretakers. They didn't abuse us. They protected us. After graduation, the state provided me with this apartment. I got a job as a maid in a hotel. That's where I met my future husband, Billy. He's a truck driver. He often stayed overnight at our hotel. You know, I didn't fall in love with him right away, but he fell madly in love with me. He courted me in a beautiful way and brought me many gifts from his trips, perfumes or jewelry. At first, I was very afraid that he was older by 10 years and had 3 children. Billy didn't hide anything. He honestly told me that his wife wasn't faithful, and they always quarreled. She didn't take care of the children at all, yelled at them, they annoyed her. And then she left them and went to her lover. Can you imagine? She abandoned 3 children. Fortunately, their neighbors called Billy and told him that the children were home alone and crying. He rushed home and couldn't believe his wife did such a cruel thing to their children. Brian, Sam, and Mia are Billy's children from his first marriage. Sam even started stuttering a little after that, but we cured him later. Billy hired a nanny to take care of the kids while he was away on trips. What else could he do? He had to feed his family. He realized I was very young. He thought I wouldn't want to take care of his children. So at first he offered, "Let's go to the park with the kids this weekend. You'll get to know each other better. If you realize that you don't need any of this, I won't be offended." I realize that 3 children are a burden and a great responsibility. But I will not abandon my children. Either such a big and friendly family or no family at all. They've already suffered a lot because of their stupid mom. They won't survive if their father turns out to be a scoundrel too. I agree. When I saw how Billy carried Brian with balloons on his shoulders, rolled the stroller with Mia, and led Sam by the hand while chatting with them cheerfully, something inside me turned upside down. It was so unusual and heartwarming. A single father with 3 children is a rarity. I quickly found a common language with his kids. We spent the whole day together. Of course, it didn't look like a romantic date. But by the evening, Billy and I had become so close that we put the kids to bed and I stayed at his house. For good. At first, it was very difficult. Sometimes I cried from fatigue, especially when the children were sick and cranky. But my beloved always helped, encouraged, and was always there for me. Gradually, I got used to the kids and could not imagine my life without them. They began to call me Mom. A year later, I found out that I was pregnant. I was beyond happy. And it turned out that we have twins. To be honest, I was very scared. It was a very difficult pregnancy. Rick and Michelle were born and we had 5 children. Despite all the difficulties, it was the happiest time ever. First tea, first words, first steps. Billy was shining with happiness, and he was proudly rolling the stroller. I never treated his children differently, they were all my children. Suddenly Kathleen fell silent, and after a short pause, she said quietly, swallowing her tears, "6 months ago, Billy died. He got into a car accident on a slippery highway. I don't remember the funeral at all. I was fainting again and again." Just like that, at the age of 25, I had become a widow with 5 children. I was terrified. The children were crying and waiting for Daddy to come home, always asking when he would come, tearing my soul apart. I was in total despair and didn't know how to move on. Hard times had come. I had to sell Billy's house to earn some money. People still don't understand me. They say I'm out of my mind and they advise me to send Billy's kids to an orphanage. But I can't. I can't. I grew up there myself and I know what's waiting for them at the orphanage. It's a betrayal. They consider me a mom. How can I give them away? They are not puppies. I had to get a job, but nobody wanted to hire me with so many children. I barely got a job as a cleaner in a company. That's how I live. I ask my friend or my neighbor to babysit children. They are often sick. Of course, it's not easy. My salary is very low. But I get an allowance for children, and my acquaintances give me a lot of clothes for them. Brian went to school this year. I barely purchased everything needed, but we made it. But my colleagues insult me all the time. They think that if I'm a cleaner, then I'm stupid and lazy. It hurts me so much. Daisy burst into tears and grabbed the woman's hand. "Kathleen, honey, you're a real hero. You're doing everything right. Everything will get better. The kids will grow up, and it will be easier. I will help you with great pleasure. It's all right. We will cope with everything together." They talked and cried together for a long time. And it seemed that with every tear, the grief and longing accumulated over the years went away, and it was like a heavy burden had been removed from their hearts. So they began to live together as one big and friendly family. The children adored Daisy, for she was a master of telling interesting bedtime stories and making delicious pies. It seemed that the old woman even became younger, straightened her back, and smiled all the time. Now she had a reason to live. She felt needed in this family. There were no rules and prohibitions here. If someone accidentally broke a dish, they were not scolded. They just cleaned it up, and that was it. The older kids looked after the younger ones, and Kathleen was teaching everyone to do household chores. The town was small, and soon people began to gossip that the mother of many children had sheltered the unfortunate old lady, although their apartment was very small. Many people knew and remembered Daisy, and of course, everyone knew that her kids had kicked the old lady out. When the rumors reached Marie and Nick, many people began to reproach them. Some people have even stopped communicating with them. Marie became furious and once caught Kathleen when she was running home from work. She made a scene right in the middle of the street, in front of shocked passersby. "Why do you need my mother? Why is she living with you? Did you shelter her deliberately to embarrass me? For your information, I didn't kick her out. It was her decision to run away. Tell her to stop this circus and come back home." Kathleen was shocked at such insolence and replied sharply, "I'm not forcing Daisy to live with us. It's her decision. You should know better what happened and why she ended up homeless. We respect and cherish her. She feels like a family member with us. You should be ashamed of what you said." Marie wouldn't stop. "Perhaps you don't know, but she has nothing. No property, no money, and you'll get nothing." Kathleen smiled. "You are wrong, she has the most important thing, a kind heart. And I don't need anything else. But I guess you can't understand that. Excuse me, I have to go, the kids are waiting." Nick was indifferent to the news that his mother was living with strangers, thinking, "Well, that's good, one less problem." Since childhood he was used to someone else making decisions for him. That's why even as an adult he didn't want to make any decisions. He even found a well-to-do wife and didn't care much about earning money. He was indifferent to his mother. Daisy lived with Kathleen for 3 years and died quietly. The doctor said she had a weak heart due to her age. Kathleen was in grief, and she decided to find Daisy's children. She hoped they didn't cherish their mother while she was alive. Maybe they'll at least want to say last goodbye to her. But she was wrong. Marie just hissed into the phone, "Mom's dead, so bury her without my help. I have no money." Nick didn't even pick up the phone. He didn't want to make any decisions again. His wife Jessica only said that her husband doesn't earn enough, and she's not going to pay her own money to bury a stranger. Kathleen was shocked by such cynicism. She couldn't believe that Daisy's children didn't even want to say goodbye to her. Kathleen had no money either, but she managed to organize the funeral and a modest memorial dinner. To her surprise, many people came to say goodbye to Daisy. They thanked Kathleen for her kindness, and some of them even gave her some money to pay for everything. But Daisy's children never showed up. Apparently, they were ashamed and didn't want to be judged by the whole town. Kathleen's children also longed for their grandmother, remembering her bedtime stories, warmth, and kindness. Kathleen often visited Daisy's grave with them and shared her joys and sorrows with her. At work, everyone started abusing her even more, saying, "That cleaning lady has lost her mind. She's penniless, raising 5 kids, living in a tiny apartment. Hasn't she had enough problems? She decided to bury some stranger at her own expense. It's crazy." Some people openly mocked her. "Hey, Kathleen, can you give us some money, too? You are very rich, aren't you? If you're paying for the funerals of some strangers, then you have a lot of money." The woman cried every day from such anger. She wanted to answer them all harshly, to throw that hateful mop and get out of there as soon as possible. But she couldn't. 6 months after Daisy's death, Kathleen received a strange letter from a notary, asking her to come to the bank. It must be some mistake, the woman thought, but still, she went to the bank, out of curiosity. It turned out that Daisy had written a will shortly before her death and had a bank account with a good amount of money. No one knew about it. Years ago, Daisy and her husband decided to open a bank account and start saving money, just in case. Over the years, a good amount of money had accumulated there with interest. But seeing how her daughter and son treated her, the old lady changed her mind and decided to leave it to Kathleen. In gratitude for her kindness, In addition to the money, the notary gave her a letter Daisy told to open it only after her death. With trembling hands, the woman opened the envelope and read, "Kathleen, my dear daughter, yes, daughter. If you are reading this letter, I am no longer alive. I want to express my gratitude for the warmth and kindness you and your children have given me. You should know that I consider the time with your family to be the best time of my life. Tell Brian, Mia, Rick, Michelle, and Sam that I love them very much. Tell Sam not to be lazy and to read more, and tell Brian to keep drawing. He is great at it. Your kids are great and kind. They will definitely not grow up to be selfish like my kids. I hope that everything in your life will work out perfectly. Love you all. Daisy." Kathleen was holding the letter as if it were her most precious asset, and sobbed as she remembered the kindest and sweetest granny who had become their family. After getting the money in the bank, Kathleen decided that she would no longer work as a cleaner, would finally repair the apartment, and take the children to the sea. It had been their pipe dream for many years. The next day, after taking the children to kindergarten and school, Kathleen didn't rush headlong to her hated job, but went shopping. She bought herself a beautiful summer dress and elegant heeled shoes. Then she went to the hairdresser, dyed her hair a beautiful chocolate color, and got a stylish haircut. She was so happy. A completely different woman looked at her from the mirror, young, attractive, fashionable, and self-confident. After all, the woman couldn't afford even such small female joys before. There was a trivial lack of money. When a young, beautiful, and stylish woman entered the company's office, tapping her heels briskly, walked confidently to the director's office. Not paying attention to the secretary, the latter was bewildered and asked, "Hello, are you here to see Alexander? How may I introduce you?" Kathleen laughed. "Stephanie, it's me, Kathleen, the cleaning lady. Don't you recognize me?" The secretary's jaw literally dropped. She thought this impressive, gorgeous woman had nothing in common with the poor modest mother of many children who scrubbed their floors. She asked in surprise, "You look great. But why are you dressed like that? Are you going to scrub the floors like that?" The secretary asked. Kathleen smiled nicely. "No, Stephanie, I'm not going to clean the floors anymore. Daisy left me a huge amount of money, so I'm going to quit and go to the seaside with the kids." When Kathleen picked up her children from kindergarten, she was not recognized not only by the caregivers but even by her own children. Her twins Rick and Michelle spun around her and shouted, "Mom, is that you? Did you get a new haircut?" Sam, who was older, gave a thumbs up and said, "Mom, you're awesome." And Brian, coming home from school, looked at Kathleen in a mature way and said with admiration, "Mommy, you look so nice. You're the most beautiful girl." During dinner, Kathleen asked in a mysterious voice, "Has everyone finished their porridge? Are you sure? Well done. I have a surprise for you. Daisy has given us a lot of money and we are going to the seaside next week. Here are the tickets. Tomorrow we will go to buy swimsuits, fins, masks and everything else. One condition: obey your mom and don't misbehave." The kids started shouting, jumping up and down, and hugging Kathleen. "Yay! The sea! Mommy, you're the best." The news that the large family went to the seaside, and about the unexpected Daisy's will, quickly spread through the town, thanks to Stephanie. When Marie found out, she hated her late mother even more, and Kathleen along with her. She raged and screamed at home. She pretended to be a saint, but she just found out about the money and decided to get it. How could she do that? My mother is no better either. She didn't say a word about the money in the bank. She has her own grandchildren, but she left it all to strangers. Where's the justice? She lived in my apartment for half a year. We fed her at our own expense. We should have put her in a nursing home right away. Kathleen and all her children had fun splashing in the warm and clean sea, building sand towers and palaces on the beach, eating delicious food, and enjoying their vacation. Of course, Kathleen couldn't let herself be completely relaxed because she had to keep an eye on the children. She made sure they didn't get sunburned and didn't forget to wear their hats. And at lunchtime, the whole family went to the lodge for a day's sleep. Now all the worries about the children were on the woman's shoulders. But she got used to it long ago. The children were obedient, sometimes mischievous, but not too much. Alan lived in a neighboring lodge. He watched and admired this interesting and noisy family having fun, and was amazed at how cleverly the woman dealt with the children without scandals and tantrums. He was a widower. His wife had died long ago without giving him a baby, and for the past 10 years the man had suffered from loneliness and longing. Alan was a wealthy lawyer. He communicated a lot with different people and could unmistakably determine the character and lifestyle of people. But this tanned, young, and cheerful stranger really impressed him. He kept calculating in his mind her age, then the age of her children, and he could not understand how she could give birth to them all. He liked the woman very much. He couldn't stop thinking about her, which happened to him very rarely. The man admired the way she smiled sincerely and warmly, the way she fixed her bangs, and turned her neck gracefully. It even gave him goosebumps. He tried to chase these thoughts away. Why do you need this young woman with so many children? Are you out of your mind, you old fool? You are 40 years old, and she is still young, maybe even married. Just her husband couldn't go on vacation. Alan watched them but didn't dare to talk to them, afraid of looking ridiculous. But their meeting did happen by chance. Sam and Mia were playing ball and accidentally hit Alan's forehead with their ball. The kids ran up to him and hurriedly apologized. "Oh, we're sorry. It was an accident. It's just that the wind is really strong. Are you okay?" The man laughed and merrily tossed the ball toward them. "It's okay. I'm okay. My name is Alan. And what's your name, young athletes?" The boys began to talk excitedly. "I'm Sam and this is my sister, Mia. We also have brothers Brian and Rick, and a little sister Michelle. We are having a vacation with my mom. Her name is Kathleen. There she is, by the water. Come play with us." They pulled the man toward the rest of the family with childish sincerity. He happily followed them. After all, he was bored and had nothing to do. Kathleen was happily playing with the children and didn't immediately notice the stranger approaching. "Hello everyone, my name is Alan. I happen to know 2 charming volleyball players and they've invited me to join you. May I join your game?" Kathleen chuckled. "Hello, I'm Kathleen. I see my mischievous children have already made new friends. It's so much like them. Sure, come join us." After this accidental meeting, Alan and Kathleen spent the whole day together, swimming, sunbathing, chatting. But the time flew by too fast. In the evening, after dinner, the man timidly suggested, "Kathleen, what do you think about having a glass of fine wine on the terrace?" The woman blushed. No one had suggested such a thing to her in a long time. "Well, maybe after I put my children to bed, but not for long, you know." Everything was trembling inside her. She hadn't experienced anything like this in a long time. The woman was looking forward to a date with this stranger. She liked Alan very much. He was nice, well-mannered, calm, and his kind eyes captivated her. She made light makeup, put on her favorite dress, and after putting everyone to bed, went out on the terrace. Alan was already waiting for her. There was fruit on the table, and wine was poured into beautiful glasses. Seeing the woman, the man perked up and handed her a beautiful bouquet of lilies. "This is for you, Kathleen. You are as beautiful as these delicate lilies. I'm so glad you came." The woman blushed. She was pleased with such attention. After all, she had never been on a real date. They sat down at a table and talked until almost midnight. From time to time, Kathleen went to check if the children were asleep, and then returned to her new friend. Alan told her that he had been living alone for 10 years, working as a lawyer, earning good money. But he had no other life besides his work, so he went to this resort from time to time out of boredom. Kathleen couldn't lie and didn't want to, so she told him everything about herself, her children, and Daisy. But she was ashamed to tell him that she worked as a cleaner because the contrast was too great. He was a successful lawyer and she was a cleaning lady. It was unbelievable, but both of them felt as if they'd known each other not for 24 hours, but for a lifetime. They felt so easy and comfortable together. Alan dared to kiss Kathleen on the cheek, in a friendly way. But that kiss made the woman's head spin. It felt so good. This had never happened to her before. Kathleen tossed and turned in bed the rest of the night, unable to stop thinking about Alan. She was angry with herself. Stupid, what are you hoping for? He doesn't need a stupid cleaning lady with so many kids. You've watched too many soap operas. It's simply impossible. The most you'll get is one night with this handsome man, nothing more. But will that make you feel any better? No. It'll only make you suffer. Forget him. Soon he'll go home and never think of you again. Here they are, my beloved sons and daughters, that's all I need. She persuaded herself, looking at her little ones snoring sweetly on the bed. The rest of the vacation, Kathleen, Alan, and the children were inseparable. They played volleyball, frolicked and fooled around like little kids, went to the zoo and parodied a funny gorilla, fed roe deer, and went sailing. Time flew by very quickly. Alan suddenly realized that he had not been this happy in a long time. The kids didn't bother him. On the contrary, when he communicated with them, he felt as if he had been transferred back to a carefree childhood. With this family, he didn't have to pretend to be anyone. He could be himself. The day of departure came. Kathleen packed her suitcase and checked the documents. The children were quite disciplined, so they packed their stuff by themselves. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Alan came in, and seeing that the family was almost ready to leave, he said, Kathleen, listen, I wanted to tell you, or rather invite you, sorry, I feel a little awkward. Kids, Kathleen, I'm inviting you to my house. I have a very big house not far from here. It's very spacious, with a beautiful garden, with a swimming pool. I also have a dog named Lilu and a cat named Tim. But I live alone in this huge house, which makes me feel very sad and lonely. There is a good school and kindergarten nearby. You will love it. Who would like to go? Raise your hands. The excited children shouted in unison and raised their hands. Yay, Mommy. We're going to Alan. Kathleen protested. No. This is inconvenient. Alan, why are you giving the children so much hope? We have to go home. And she picked up the suitcase. The children were upset and fell silent. But Alan winked at them and whispered, Calm down. I'll talk to your mom and persuade her. The kids went outside. Kathleen was very angry. Alan, don't play with children's feelings. It's not fair. We're adults. How are we going to go to your house together? What am I to you? You'll play with me. You'll get tired of me and the kids. And then what? How am I going to explain it to the kids? You haven't thought about it, but children are not toys. And they don't only laugh and play, they are often cranky and sick, and they need to be treated and educated. It's not an easy job. They're my family, but they're strangers to you. And me, who am I to you? We have met only 2 weeks ago. Why do you need me? Alan suddenly pulled her against him and kissed her passionately on the lips. She tried to resist, but then suddenly relaxed, unable to control herself, and they couldn't pull away from each other for a long time. Then Alan said, Kathleen, I'm 40 years old, and I'm a lawyer. Believe me, I'm responsible for what I say. You know, if someone had told me a month ago that I would fall in love with a strange woman with 5 kids, I would have laughed. But believe me, those 2 weeks we spent together were the best 2 weeks of my life. After my wife died 10 years ago, I had become cynical and pragmatic, and I didn't believe in love anymore. But you and your children helped me to become the same person I was before. With you, I became myself, and I finally feel happy. I realize the level of responsibility for you and the children, and believe me, I will not betray you or leave you, no matter what. We will get married and live as a big and friendly family. Kathleen smiled and said, Well, if that's true, then I agree. Children really like you, and it's impossible to trick a child's heart. And I feel the same way. and she hugged him tenderly. Then she added, "But what about a job? Will I be able to find a suitable job in your city? Even at my previous workplace, they hired me only out of compassion." Alan laughed. "What job? What do you need it for? Your only job is to be a mom. By the way, you're great at it. I have enough money to provide for my family, believe me." Kathleen felt like everything that was happening to her was some kind of magical fairy tale. She was afraid that if she closed her eyes, everything would disappear. Every night, lying in bed with her beloved, Kathleen mentally said, "Thank you, Daisy, you are my guardian angel. Even when you are in heaven." Anger and hatred for their mother were destroying Marie and Nick from the inside. Soon, Marie unexpectedly got into a car accident and was left disabled for the rest of her life. Neither her husband and her children, nor her brother wanted to take care of her and immediately put the woman in a home for the disabled. Nick drowned in debt and began to drink heavily. Soon Jessica filed for divorce, leaving the poor man with nothing. Daisy's children became even more angry at everyone, spending all the gloomy days away from their relatives and suffering from loneliness, which felt like an unbearable burden. They never understood the fundamental truth: your children will treat you the same way you treat your parents. This is the law of life.